I'm going to say the dreaded word, Starbucks. Starbucks is nowhere near as common. Good afternoon and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be running through 10 things Australians might take for granted in Australia. The reason we thought this would make a good list is 84.2% of our viewership, flash that up on screen, is actually Australian. A lot of people don't realise that the majority of our viewers are actually you guys based in Australia. So with us living here in Australia for a year and a half, we wanted to do a video on 10 points you guys watching may take for granted from comments, from a bit of research and from things that we noticed when we first moved over here that other countries in Europe and the UK alike don't really have. And a quick flashpoint before we get into that countdown of the top 10 things, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has bought the Venture Club merch. As of this morning, as of recording, we have sent off the first batch of, I think, about 42 shirts that got bought. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for all the support that's come in, even if it's just a comment. The support that we got on the launch of the merch was absolutely incredible. And to all those who have bought, your merch is on the way. Get ready. And so without any further ado, let's get into that point number one with our makeshift mic of the day, which is a sunscreen mic. In the last one, we actually had a Vegemite mic. Everybody loved it. Today's a sunscreen mic. Remember, everybody, slip, slop, slap.
So let's get into point number one, which might seem like an obvious, but it is the beaches. And it's the amount of beaches that they have here in Australia. I think Australia is very worldly widely known for having so many beaches. I think if you visited a beach every single day for like a year, is it? You'd only just get round to all of them. I don't even know if that's a thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's like some facts. You're going to have to let us know, you guys, in the comments. I'm sure somebody would know it. But I do think in Australia, you're very much spoilt by the beaches themselves. You can go to other countries and go, not quite as nice as the one in Australia, I must admit. But also it's the facilities. They've got fantastic facilities available. Excusing places like Bondi, you can turn up to a beach here in Australia and it'll be completely empty. Nobody on it. Which, coming from the UK, going to Europe for holidays in the summer, I find that absolutely bizarre. That does blow my mind. I must say, flash up a photo of a UK beach for you guys that haven't seen one. Some of them are nice, but compared to Australia, let's be honest, the beaches are not somewhere where you spend a lot of your time. I can't say that I grew up by the beach, I'm going to be honest, and I live within 40 minutes of the seaside. In Europe especially, places like Spain, Italy, Greece, they make you pay for sun loungers in the summertime. The beaches are rammed with people. I don't know if you use that word rammed, but they are full of people, so busy. You're lucky to get a towel there, never mind get a lounger. People do pay for the loungers, and the beaches are just scattered with loungers. It's not aesthetically very pleasing, I must say. So all in all, not every Australian might take their beaches for granted. However, if you haven't been to any other countries, you might not know how great they really are.
Point number two on the list is the readily available, very abundant and clean, let's get that down to the point, clean, free toilets that are available in Australia. So whether you're talking about through the city, whether you're at a park, at the beach, maybe a transport hub, you are most likely going to find a free, cleaned public toilet. For us personally, turning up from the UK, this is a massive one. We love our nature walks, we love going to the beach, we love being out in the wilderness, but sometimes you can catch yourself in a little bit of a sticky situation and go, oh no, there's no toilets nearby, what am I going to do? The solution to this is if you're in places like Europe or the UK, you might have to go to an establishment, whether that's a restaurant, a pub, and do that kind of awkward walk in and biting your lip and like, oh gosh, I have to be that guy. Am I able to, maybe go and use your toilet? It's not irregular to even get turned away from some of these places. So you can find yourself in a little bit of a sticky situation. And staying on that point, if you're not the most socially forthcoming, should I say, to then walk out and then know that you have to go through that whole procedure again, it can really put you in an awkward predicament. And another point on top of that is you can sometimes find yourself with a language barrier. Now, this has actually happened personally to us. We went to a place in Spain called Almeria, and taking Almeria as a personal experience, we did notice that speaking Spanish was a must when we were there. So we really had to brush up on our Spanish, get the lingo down, even with this broad accent. I think that kind of caused a little bit of confusion. But if you're looking for a toilet, once again, you can find yourself in a little bit of a sticky predicament. On top of that, in places that are populated, like train stations, like bus stations, the idea of having toilets that cost isn't too irregular. So if you're in train stations, bus stations, you see people jumping over barriers, but you kind of have to walk away if you want to kind of not get arrested. Maybe arrested's a bit far, but the idea of getting security on these doors, which is then a cost further, would it not just make more sense for people to just have free access to something that should really be a natural bodily function that everybody should have access to? It seems like something so obvious, but Australians, you might take it for granted if you've never been in that predicament.
Point number 3 is that there's free public barbecues across the country. So these can be available in parks, by the beaches, and it's just amazing to go down on, like, say, Tuesday afternoon, Friday afternoon, and see families gathering around them, having a good time. It's just a great way for families and friends to meet up, isn't it? In contrast to the UK, I don't think we have any facilities like that are free of charge. And anything that we've had previously, for example, so we used to have payphones in the UK, which have been taken away, which is a shame because kids can use them on the way home to ring parents. And here they are still available and they are free, which is pretty crazy. So it's the exact same with the barbecue/electric grills, that it's great to just have them readily available. You can go down, cook your own stuff. Absolutely fantastic.
Point number 4 on the list is drive-through bottlers. Now, don't get me wrong, in the UK, of course, we have shops that have alcohol in it, and we also have off licenses which would sell alcohol. But the idea and the convenience of a drive-through bottler, or offie, as it would be in the UK, is unheard of. Like, the concept of a drive-through is specifically and usually down to the idea of a fast food or takeaway place. But to me, this is something that is specifically Australian. Whether it actually exists in other countries, whether you're viewing from America, Canada, let us know if these countries have it. From the research I've seen, it seems to be quite an Aussie, oi, oi, oi thing. But jumping onto the point that why it may be taken for granted, again, it just comes down to a simple point of convenience. Convenience to drive on through. If you just need a drink, just grab it. Maybe don't do it whilst you're driving, but grab your drink, get it at the drive-through bottler. Job's a good un. On your way home, she'll be right. Have a good un.
So on to point number 5, which is the friendliness of people in customer service over here. They're more like your friends. So when you go to Coles, Woolies, for example, the staff are always so nice. You feel like you've made friends with them at the checkout. And also, they do tend to ask here on the Sunshine Coast, would you like your shopping packed? Now, I'm not sure if they do that in other parts of Australia. I imagine that they do, but comment below and let us know. But in the UK, you never get asked if you want your shopping packed. I've took my grandma shopping many a times in the UK and she's never been asked, does she want her shopping packed either? So it's not like an age thing. And people just tend to be a lot more friendlier in general. Customer service is a lot more laid back. Where in the UK, whether they're on the phones or it's an in-person, I just feel like people are a little bit more uptight. Culturally, it's just very different in the UK. It's much more formal, especially in those customer service roles.
Point number 6 on the list is the high quality coffee. Again, for anybody who's never been outside of Australia, maybe they don't realise how good the quality of coffee here in Australia is. This encapsulates not just the coffee, but also the cafe culture is second to none in Australia. It really is top notch. And if I was no longer in Australia, I know for certain that I would miss it as soon as I'd be on the plane leaving Australia, even for a holiday. If I was going to another country for a holiday, I'd be looking longingly out the window at the coffee shops as I leave Australia in the plane, because the coffee is just beautiful. From being this is going to break a couple of people's hearts even hearing this. My coffee of choice when we arrived here in Australia, anybody who's watched the channel will know, was an iced vanilla latte. I'm a converted man, please don't hate me too much. I now drink a flat white. I've become one of the Aussie boys. And this is mainly down to the quality of coffee. Having it on a regular daily basis, you begin to build up, right, that's good, that's not so good. But it does intrigue me. I think Australians mainly get an idea for this, leaving, going to places like Europe, the UK, even America. I'm going to say the dreaded word, Starbucks. Starbucks is nowhere near as common here in Australia as it is in other places around. Franchise coffee shops, they're absolutely riddled all over places like the UK. We were speaking to an Aussie recently. They've just come back from Europe and they were going, everybody is just obsessed with pumpkin spice lattes and I don't get the hype. And then we were chatting and we were like, did you try it? Did you enjoy it? They were like, it's just a sugar drink. It's more sugar than coffee. So the idea of having such high quality coffee places, even outside of the city, you're talking your small towns, your small kind of places where there might only be 4 or 5 shops, but you can bet that 3 out of the 5 are good quality cafes that serve some of the best coffee that you would be lucky to get in some of the most built up civilized places in I'm not going to say Europe, maybe this is more of a UK point. I don't want to pick out Europe because obviously Europe does have some good coffee spots, but this is definitely more of a UK point.
Point number 7, which I think is a pretty important one, is space. Now, if you lived in Australia all your life, you won't know, it won't feel like you live in a very spacious area. What we noticed moving over here was that majority of the houses tend to be a lot bigger, and I guess that comes down to population. In the UK, there's something like at least 70 million people living in that country, where in Australia, I think it's about 25 million in comparison. In the UK, we still have a lot of factory-built houses, so they tend to be like our terrace houses, which are like a 2-bed, 2 up, 2 down, very small. You can have a family of 4 living in them, and sometimes without a garden, no garage. And I know that terrace houses do exist in Australia, in places like Melbourne. However, space in general, everything just tends to be a lot more spacious. I'm sure you have noticed that if you have been to the UK and you are Australian.
Point number 8 is the relative lack of old infrastructure. But before you shoot to the comment section, please understand that what I mean when I say this, of course there are old buildings in Australia, but the negatives that come with older buildings, and in the UK specifically, this is a big issue for homeowners. For example, our home in the UK was one of the small factory-built terrace houses built in 1835, and with that comes a whole heap of problems that a modern-day homeowner needs to amend and fix, whether that's to bricks, mortar, or even just the housing standards changing. You're talking 1835, for example, with our house. The advancements in technology, electricity, everything, since that point, double glazing in glass, roof slates may be coming away. You start to face a lot more problems, even things like damp. Damp is a big old issue in the UK. It's a lovely, dreary old place. Shivers down the spine even just thinking about it, but it was one of the big things when we moved into our house in the UK. Within a couple of months of us getting in, not even getting our furniture sorted, we needed a full damp proofing course done through the house, as the place was more of a swimming pool in those walls. So facing issues like this, I'm sure, do exist in Australia, but obviously with the older buildings, you face this a lot as a homeowner in the UK, and maybe not so much in Australia.
Point number 9 is about food security and local produce. What I have noticed here in Australia, especially where we are on the Sunshine Coast, is majority of people do use the local fresh fruit and veg grocers still, which is fantastic to see. In the UK, unfortunately, the big supermarkets have overtook the greengrocers and the greengrocers are closing down. So do make sure to continue to support your local greengrocers because it really does make a difference, guys. Australia is much more self-sufficient in being able to grow more things than the UK. Can you believe that only 18% of Europe is self-sufficient in being able to grow fruit? And same goes for veg, which is only 55%. Comparing that to Australia and seeing how much they can actually grow here, going into greengrocers and seeing what's readily available, really does blow your mind as a Brit living in Australia. So in conclusion to that, this is something that an Aussie might take for granted. Again, if it's all you've ever known, you don't know any different.
And the final point to our list, if you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and like the video if you want more like this. But point number 10 is the unique and endemic wildlife on offer in Australia. This is possibly my favourite point about Australia. If anybody follows the channel, you know that I absolutely love a little bit of wildlife, as Cody does. When it comes to the wildlife, when it comes to nature, you do feel like you have transported through a portal, kind of like getting on a plane, to a new world. But the part that I think Aussies may take for granted is seeing things like bush turkeys, your ibis, your bin chickens. I mean, a name like that says it all, case in point. But kangaroos, the idea of kangaroos being so commonly seen, it makes sense that you kind of get conditioned to the normality of seeing such an incredible creature. Now, this doesn't take away from the point that Aussies don't love them, respect them, care for them. The point being that if you have grown up around these from being such a small child all the way up to a grown-up adult, you of course won't react or wouldn't maybe see the shock value in seeing a creature like this if you've never seen them. The most recent point being with my mum when she came over from the UK, she was absolutely jaw on the floor at the size of bush turkeys just wandering round wild. To an Aussie, that is a complete normal thing, nothing unnatural about that. To somebody from another country, like I said, jaws on the floor. Now, of course, there are a number of animals that obviously Aussies do absolutely love seeing and still come as a shock, whether that be a snake, whether that be a huntsman, let's say kangaroos, bush turkeys, your ibis, animals like this, your flora, your fauna, you've seen it every day, wandering through, nothing really to see. Somebody who's just landed or come from another country, jaws on the floor.
So I hope that you have enjoyed the list today, guys. This has been a little bit of fun. As always, comment below and let us know if there's any points that you feel should be added to the list, because I know there's a lot of you guys that have travelled to places like Europe or the UK. Maybe you're from the UK. Maybe your family are from the UK. Comment below and let us know. We always love to hear your stories and would love to know what additions you would like to make to the list. But please be sure to like this video if you did enjoy, and make sure that you are subscribed, because it does make a difference to our channel. Thank you to you wonderful members. You guys are amazing. And we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Adios.